All right, welcome to the July 21st Flathead Reservation Water Management Board meeting. With that, first item on the agenda is to adopt the agenda. Has anybody got any budget or agenda modifications or are good with it as stand? Take a motion.
Move to adopt the agenda. Sir.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda as provided. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
With that opening prayer, George, could you lead in an opening prayer?
Oh, certainly.
Thank you.
Before I do, does anybody else feel like they would like to say a prayer? Give other people a chance. Okay. Like the reason I kind of say the same thing all the time. So I spent the weekend. Well, what else could I say a little different?
I think you always do a great job.
Oh, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, so dear Lord Jesus Dupia, thank you for this day, for this gathering of staff, board members. Please be with us, be in our hearts and in our minds. Help us to make wise and careful decisions. Be with those returning home tonight. May they return home safely. Guide and protect us all. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, as always, the board minutes are on the website at www.frwmb.gov. So with that, we'll take a roll call attendance.
Lieutenant here. Vice Chair George McLeod.
Here.
Chairman Roger Noble.
Here.
Chris Brazell.
Here.
Swaney's absent.
Thank you. All right. We disclose any potential conflicts of interest. Kent? Chris?
No.
George?
None.
None for myself either. All right. Okay, if you take a look at the minutes from the June 16th board meeting and take a motion to either amend or accept.
Chairman, I do have a question. My comments. What is on the second page, 4.2, what does that mean to this?
4.2.
Yeah, I see that. So that was underwater policy and procedures.
Yeah, if I may, Chairman.
Sure.
That was, we moved forward to change that form to reflect the fact that people could only withdraw completely. And yet there was one component that needed to be cleaned up above. And so we struck a few more words in the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you for the clarification or for the information. All right. Any other questions? Good to me too.
Reads of June 16, 2016.
Oh, second. You got it. Chris got it.
You the next place.
All right. Motion by Ken, second by Chris to approve the board minutes of June 16, 2026. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, public comment. This is for any items that are not on the agenda today. See, there's one person physically in the audience, and looks like there's one individual online.
There are no members of the public online.
Thank you. Okay, there's no public comment from the audience or electronically, so.
Sure.
Oh, certainly.
So for this group's information, The final order of the water court regarding the compact has been appealed to the Montana Supreme Court. There were, I believe, 8 to 10 different notices of appeal that were filed, so it's a very large body of individuals and irrigation districts, county water and sewer districts that have filed the appeal. Obviously, the compact parties will be a part of that appeal. So I will keep you updated as it moves along.
Is there anything we need to do as part of that?
There might be a possibility of conversing with the compact parties on an amicus appearance to represent, what the board has been doing, because some of the orders that are being appealed are going back to, if you remember this opinion from the water court, it was before the final order. The water court issued an opinion on the board's jurisdiction. And that is an order that some of these parties are appealing. And so we might need to communicate with the compact parties on participating as an amicus to provide that context that the compact parties cannot.
Okay. Anybody else have questions for Haley? All right, thanks for the update.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I assume all that stuff, get that online. In the school board.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I mean, the notices of appeal aren't substantive. They're just, we are filing a notice of appeal, it's under this rule, it doesn't require mediation, so nothing substantive has been filed yet.
Finding stuff on the Montana Water Court's website is always tricky. If you could email a link to all the board members so we can follow this, that'd be great.
Sure, I can provide a link to the Montana Supreme Court, which is where all these appeal documents will be, and also the water court for any sort of orders you want.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. Okay, we're on to board business. First item on the agenda is board compensation for June 2026. It is the salmon color spreadsheet. Rhonda.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to clarify that I have not heard feedback from board member Sweeney on the regular board compensation or the committee compensation.
Okay.
Chairman, just delay it to later.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion, Ken. Let's see if Ruth comes in after her, before she's definitely got an engagement. Thank you. Good idea. Okay, on to item 4. So that is the banking agreement transition for money market account to ICS. And that is again, Rhonda.
Yes. We have had our money market insured by the FDIC at $250,000, and anything above Glacier Bank was actually covering the cost of the extra insurance. That was costing Glacier Bank approximately $100, and that third-party company has now decided that they wanted to charge Glacier Bank $1,000 per month. So Glacier Bank was able to present us a solution, and it's called a tri-party agreement transition to the ICS, which is, sorry, I'm not really great with this.
Insured cash sweep.
That's what it is.
Insured cash sweep.
And so what that does is it allows Glacier Bank to hold our funds in our money market account in theory, but they're distributing it to other banks within the community at $250,000 each. So everything will be completely covered at the FDIC's coverage amount for that amount. It doesn't really affect us any. It allows us to still do daily transfers if we need to. It reflects in our bank account accurately. So this agreement is just more along the lines behind the scenes. Elena and I did meet with them. We talked about the options for CDs, to maybe do that a little bit different. And the CDs aren't performing very well right now. So our interest rate in our money market seems to be the best option. And it's readily available without having to worry about 3 months, 6 months, or carryover, that kind of thing. Elena might have something that she caught in the meeting that I didn't. Nope. Okay. And so this is basically a motion to have Roger sign the paperwork to get this going, so we don't insure it, and so we're insured and we don't incur higher charges.
So is there any risk to the board, any increased risk?
No, it doesn't look like it, and everything I've read through, it's basically trying to eliminate the risk of not being insured.
What it essentially does is it breaks up any amount of funds over 250,000, and in a like sharing agreement with other banks, moves that amount under that other banking license such that all funding is insured under the FDIC. So, our bank will be doing that for other banks. So it's more of a shared risk.
What is the money market interest rate?
It's 3%.
Oh, that's pretty good.
It is actually really good. When I did some research, we could get maybe 3.12 for CDs.
Yeah.
And then we would have to go through the process of, if we ended up taking money out, we would forfeit interest and fees. And so it was kind of the best option to leave it in the money market. They really did good by us when we asked them to.
Yeah, no, it makes it readily accessible, yet it's still fully covered. It's a good move. So. Any other questions for Rhonda or Elena? Okay, I guess we need to have public comment on this. Any comment from the audience? I see none from the audience. Any comment online?
Anyone online has a comment, please raise your hand while I speak. Comments?
No public comment, so I guess we need to take an action for us to approve this transition. Take a motion to do so.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the signature of required documents for money market account ICS.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Maybe we should take a roll call vote on this.
Yes.
Vice Chair George McDonald,
Yes.
Chairman Roger Noble,
Yes.
Chris Brazil.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Good job, guys, on figuring that out. So that's important. Budget. I guess we're gonna have a tag team on there, Elena and Rhonda. So Elena, looks like you're up first. So in our previous meeting, we asked that we kind of get our budget updated a little bit. And I think that Rhonda and to reflect what the current staffing situation is, and also some other operation categories. So I think Elena and Rhonda took it upon themselves to do that. So you can tell us what you did.
Yeah, so we wanted to share with the board and reflect those salaried amounts. And then we also wanted to get a head start on anything that we might need to submit to the funding partners so that we can have the board approve either the submission of an invoice or of a budget and any other associated documents that the funding partners may need in August, so that hopefully that 2-month timeline upon which funds are usually dispersed can occur so that we receive funds by the beginning of our fiscal year in October. So this was our first go, and this is my first time working on the budget here. We did want to make sure we were responsive to the request to update some of these items, and I'll be meeting with the funding partners and have provided this to them as well, so that they can provide input and some of the background maybe that I'm missing from previous submissions, or how this better fits into the process. So this will come back either in the context of an invoice or whatever documentation is needed in August.
So in our packet too, you'll see there's two handouts. One handout is the revised budget, and the other handout is the, we've seen this before, a summary of the budget up through the second quarter, which the board has already approved. So just that way you can lay them side by side for comparison purposes. Right. And you can see where some of the adjustments have been made. So essentially, when I looked at this, it looked like, we had in this one that's through the second quarter was based on the budget that was submitted to the funding agencies and how we were going to allocate money. There's been a lot of changes staffing wise that have occurred. And maybe there's probably some vacancy savings built into this. And so you can take a look and you'll see that essentially the staff salaries and indirect, basically personnel, has been reduced about $100,000. Conversely, operations have been increased about $100,000. And we had, in our early budget, we had left some blanks, and we're going to try and meet some of those other obligations through some of the initial startup cost money we had, but they reapportioned that money to then fill in for like the audit would be a new line item. So essentially the operations has increased about $100,000. So they're just, and we've talked to the funding or the partner agencies before, the funding entities, and they've told us that they realize that the budget's a work in progress and that we can submit a budget amendment at any time. And that's what this would essentially be. And once Elena meets with the funding entities and reviews it, then it'll come back to us again. But this is kind of an update on an amended budget is what it is. That summarized pretty good. So we're not taking action on this at this time. It's just for informational purposes. We'll take action at it at the August board meeting.
And if any board members have more questions or want to go more in depth prior to August, let me know, and Rhonda or I can sit down with you.
So yeah, well done. So the bottom line stays the same, the total budget, it hasn't changed. So it's just a reallocation of some of the funding. Any other, George, you have any questions?
No.
Ken? No. Chris? Okay. All right, we'll move on then to the engineer update report. This is relative to the petition for groundwater management area. So this may take a while.
Yeah, so the office did receive a petition for groundwater management area and are currently determining whether it is correct and complete, and anticipate getting that to the board soon, but that's a transmittal. And so once we do that, there are timelines incumbent with that. We were given a little bit of a heads up that may occur, and so had started working on this form that's in front of you today. Just, it's important and helpful, I believe, for the office and the public to know kind of the pieces that go into a petition via the form. And this is based off of the DNRC form. In particular, the filing fees are supposed to be reflective of what's occurring at the state as the state legislature determines those. So this won't be retroactively applicable to the petition that was submitted, but it's still important in terms of having it approved as future ones may come in. And then also, these components will be determined to be either correct and complete or not in the context of the Office of the Engineer review before it's transmitted to the board. And so we wanted to make sure that the board got this and was able to discuss it, make changes, and approve while we're kind of thinking about all of the pieces that go into this.
There's quite a bit here, so if you guys want to take a minute to really look at it, I assume that you probably used the DNRC petition for a template.
For a controlled groundwater area instead of a groundwater management area.
Yeah. Maybe you could also explain a little bit of what a groundwater management area is.
Yeah, so a groundwater management area in the is discussed in both the compact and the ordinance and is outlined in order to provide greater protection for areas where there are more concerns around either water quantity or water quality. And it's provided for in the same way that controlled groundwater management areas are in the state, where there's a number of different entities that can petition in order to create a groundwater management area. In that, it can be CSKT, it can be a number of landowners, a public health agency, pieces like that, depending upon whether or not the rationale behind the groundwater management area is either water quality or water quantity. And then what has to occur is there needs to be sufficient evidence and data to demonstrate that there is a need. There's the ability to apply for either a temporary or a permanent groundwater management area. And so those pieces will come in, and then the Office of the Engineer will work to determine if the petition is correct or complete, has some deficiencies that need to be addressed, or once it is correct and complete, will be transmitted to the board for review. At that point in time, the board, with the assistance of the office, will provide public notice about a hearing on the petition. And all of the individuals in the area will be provided notice of that hearing. And there are public notice requirements in newspapers also associated with that hearing date. And what we'll be talking about next is trying to outline that process a little bit more in the WPNPs for what the office will do and how they will transmit that information.
What would be a scenario where you could request a temporary?
Yeah, so I think in some places, temporary groundwater management, well, we don't have any groundwater management areas, but in the state, I believe there have been temporary controlled groundwater areas. I believe here, what we would do in terms of having a temporary one is if the data was insufficient to demonstrate a long-term trend, or if there were concerns around whether it was, not something that was necessarily going to be a long-term impact, but rather a short-term impact. So then a temporary groundwater management area would allow for further data collection to demonstrate whether it was long-term need or if there was groundwater recovery or groundwater quality recovery.
So I have a couple questions, I guess. One is, you did mention that we have one petition in, but that one wouldn't be retroactive to the petition. Why is that? It seems like the petition gives you the review criteria to know if to accept it or not accept it. So I guess maybe it's a legal question, but I guess this kind of sets the standard or sets the process procedures for determining if it's a correct and complete application. There was a question in there. So.
Yeah, I'm trying to decipher.
So I think what Roger's asking is whether or not the office can deem the petition to be correct and complete without having the form.
Yeah.
And I believe that there is a lot of language around this in the ordinance.
Yeah.
That is also reflected in this form. I think in some ways that's up to the board.
Okay.
I just like to have, I think this is something that was identified as a need for a while. And so
Yeah.
perhaps suggesting that it isn't retroactive is just a function of my understanding that the office maybe should have put some time into it.
Yeah, well, that's kind of a two-way sword too, because, we usually try to have things in place before we act on something. The other question I had is, or the concern I have is, your application filing fees, $3,000. These groundwater management areas, usually when they're put together, oftentimes they'll include modeling and a lot of technical analysis, maybe a lot of heavy duty water chemistry type stuff to demonstrate the need for it. And Elena's has a strong groundwater background, but there's a lot of other areas. Nobody can cover everything. Those are specialties, modelers are specialists, geochemists are specialists. So I guess one question is the $3,000, is that sufficient what I'm concerned about is in order to review one of these, we may have to hire outside consultants that have that kind of expertise to review the application. And so one, is that $3,000 sufficient to cover it, or do we need to build in some kind of clause that would say, you submit this application, but pending the review, during the review, we may have to you may incur additional funds to cover outside consultation. I'm just, throwing that out. Otherwise, if we have to do that, we're paying for it out of our budget, and we've got a limited budget. So just throw it.
I think a couple notes that maybe this gets back to your somewhat question from before as well. So I passed around a little flow chart on just the basics of GMAs and how they work through the ordinance. You'll notice that this process is heavily board driven. And it's one of the only processes in the ordinance that is like this. There are kind of 2 points or stages that I want to point out in the process that I think address your concerns. One is after the office deems it correct and complete and it is transmitted to the board then can either deny it in whole or in part, grant, move it to a hearing to grant basically, or can basically put it on hold to conduct further investigation and information gathering. So that's a stage where if the board did want to conduct its own, technical analysis of it, it would have to do so on its own budget and by its own means. I don't think it would be appropriate, if the board were to deem it needed more information, further than that, to ask the applicant to cover that charge. The reason why I say that is because if the board, the second process or piece of this process I want to highlight was if the board is looking at granting this application and it goes into a hearing, which is a public hearing, one of the focal points of the hearing is to request that the technicians who submitted the application are to testify in front of the board in that hearing. And so they are to present all of their data in front of the board and be able to ask and answer any questions of the board from a technical side. And then obviously we have office staff present to basically weigh that information and allow the board with some sort of understanding. So I think it's already kind of built in is what I'm getting at. But there are some opportunities to look into if the board was wanting to hire an outside technician.
And then when it comes to the filing fee, it's actually in the ordinance that the amount of the fee shall be the same as the fee charged by DNRC for the same type of application under state law.
Okay, thank you.
And that was 3,000.
Yeah. And then it said the board shall post notice of the applicable amount of these fees at the office of the engineer and on the board's website. So part of why I wasn't thinking it could necessarily be retroactive is because the petition was submitted before this is going to be approved.
But if we get a petition, can we charge for it? I mean, the one that's in the door? I guess
This is the petition that was submitted to the office should be charged a fee. Yes, the fee should be submitted. I mean, just because there was not a form at the time they submitted it, they did acknowledge that was the case. They even indicated that they would be happy to resubmit on the form that we had approved. Not saying that that's necessary with this petition because it is substantive.
Yeah.
But it is something that is being filed with this office, and so the fee should apply.
Okay. George, any thoughts?
I'm all good with it.
Listen to substantive.
Chris, your thoughts?
I'm good. Yeah, I think the discussion has clarified concerns I have. Thank you.
I guess I would like to see the applicant resubmit with the form, because then we've got all the documentation to move it forward. And I think that it's kind of just like dotting the I's and crossing the T's, So then it sets the stage then for our review, our getting after it, So especially with the timeframes on there, So.
And Mr. Chairman, they did say that they would resubmit.
Yeah,
So.
right. So, yeah, so I'd like to see that done, but. Ken, you said you had a couple?
Yeah, I was just curious on the signature page, we're asking for a state local public advocacy. I know that the things have, I'm wondering what it's changed.
Sorry.
On page 4,
Uh-huh.
signatures must be filed by, this form must be filed by a state or local public health agency. And then, so we know that DEQ has done this in the past. I'm wondering why it's showing up in our form. So that's a big required to by the ordinance. Or where does this come from?
Yes.
Let me double check. I believe.
I'm not contesting that, I'm just curious.
I believe it came from our ordinance. I do know that like the Hayes Creek controlled groundwater area in Missoula is a function of high nitrate in bedrock. And so well, the health department there didn't actually file for that one. Health departments have in other counties. And so I think this would enable, CSKT Tribal Health or one of the health departments, depending upon the county, to say this is an issue when it comes to public health.
I'm not saying it's a bad idea at all.
Yeah.
I'm just curious where it came from. Yeah.
That list of entities that are in that paragraph are directly. The list of entities are directly from the ordinance.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't care about the entity, the word of the actual language,
from the ordinance.
that we should include this in our form.
No, but, so what the top part is getting at the entities that can petition for
Sure.
a groundwater
Okay,
management, but, yeah. And so that top block is saying, if you are any one of these entities, you need to sign here. If you are part of the group of, whatever it is, 10% of the individual water right holders that are filing for a GMA, then you need to sign here. So it's differentiating between the individual or the entity that's filing the petition.
So this form must be followed.
By a state or a local public health entity, agency for identified public health risks.
Right, a municipality, county, conservation district, or at least by 1/3 of water right, yeah.
So in other words, we can't issue this form, use this form unless we have a signature by all the parties.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's who's allowed to file the petition. So you can't just have one individual file a
I
petition.
know. I'm just saying you're adding another requirement to the petition. And that's going to make it justified, not biologically or hydrologically, just justified legally. Add another requirement.
Well, all applications need to be signed and verified by the applicant.
Yeah, I know, but do they all need to be signed by DEQ or public health agency?
No, so
That's if form would be.
I mean, I read it as optional, right? You either fill out the top or you fill out the bottom.
Right.
Depending on who you are.
Right.
That's how I do
I guess you're right. Okay.
it. But I see your point, the first sentence is under signature, so yeah, that's the.
Maybe just.
Yeah, yeah. Like,
Just stupid me, reason why I'm sure. Good show things.
No, good question.
yeah, I mean, if to avoid any sort of confusion, I think that first paragraph or first sentence in that paragraph could actually be deleted. And you
Okay.
could start with printer type the full name.
Okay.
And then instead of saying, full name of the water users, you could say, the list of, those entities or water users. And then it goes into sign here if you're and this really should include all of them for the sign below, right? And that
Yeah.
it should include the whole list of them,
Yeah.
not just the health agencies.
Okay.
And then you have your individual water right holders.
So my second comment or question is on page 2, section 1, the very last one. This is speaking to the ghost order. Public health, safety, or welfare. I think the obvious question was it's an environmental risk instead of just public safety or welfare. Is that something you don't control? We just open the door, we don't have to do it on the touch.
Well, I think what the top three are saying is the environmental impact in the context of water rights to either the groundwater levels that are in decline, reduce groundwater levels, and that's for water users, and then groundwater levels or surface water availability necessary for water rights holder to exercise water rights, and then impaired groundwater quality is the third one. So is there an environmental impact that may not necessarily be tied to those three pieces?
I would, say that all three of those are human related? What if there was a separate and different environmentalist that you could relate to someone holding water? So you've got a well.
Well, I think, and I haven't actually encountered a lot of it, but there are a lot of wetland rights associated with the compact. So I think that those rights are included in the water rights that are impacted by the cause of a decline in groundwater levels or impaired groundwater quality associated with those wetland water rights is how I would interpret that, at least.
I was thinking a little, I get a little concerned, adding boxes on there because those boxes that are written out are actually specifically cited in the ordinance. So nothing was like added here or made up. It's pulled directly from the ordinance.
What kind of answers my question?
Yeah.
Thank you. So all I want to do was, then I have a really quick.
Great. No.
Section 2B.
You can say the space between two and that space.
Well, I've noted that one. What's the other one?
I would delete. That's it, sorry.
No, those are great. I think we can make those changes.
Oh, I did have a question about your flow chart though.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got everything here, right, it's good. Then you have, up here you have kind of a separate designation
Yeah.
for board. I don't understand what the purpose of that is.
Because the top bubble, the top dark bubble is for if a petition is filed by any one of those entities,
Yeah.
then we follow that whole process.
Yeah, okay.
If it's, so the other part of the groundwater management area section in the ordinance is that the board can also designate
On its own,
on its own.
okay.
And so that's a separate process that's actually like not as cumbersome as.
Thank you.
Good questions. Good question. So this, we know that some of these groundwater petitions were gonna come forward, but between some changes in staffing and trying to get our permits and changes committee going and working on focusing on that too. This kind of got delayed a little bit, so it's coming forward now. And it kind of was triggered by this first one that came in the door, but it's timely. So anyway, with that, I guess, any further discussion on Form 630F, petition for groundwater management area?
Can we look to approve the form there?
We are. Any further discussion? Okay, with that, I guess we will entertain public comment. Any comment from the audience? No comment from the audience. How about online?
Anyone online, has a comment, raise your hand, I'll allow you to speak. Public comments.
Okay, thank you. So there is, let the record show there's no public comment. There have been a couple modifications made to this, or suggestions made for modifications to the form. I guess we would need a motion to move forward.
I'll move to approve Form 630F with the minimal modifications.
Okay.
A second.
All right, thank you. So it's been moved and seconded to approve the petition for groundwater management form 630F with the suggested modifications. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
And a bit,
Yes.
Vice Chair Dwight Clark,
Yes.
Chairman Robin Noble.
Yes.
Yes.
So now this will go to public notice. Is that the next step?
No, forms do not require a 50-day.
All right. So I guess, yeah, it's forms approved. I would suggest that petitioner, you ask them to use this form and we can move ahead.
Yeah.
So, all right, thank you. Guess that brings us now to the language for the WPNP on the groundwater management area form. With that, I guess, Elena, do you want to lead us through that?
Yeah. So there's a short paragraph of what will occur upon receipt of a petition that the Office of the Engineer will do. And so evaluate technical citations and merit of documentation provided. This may include outside consultation, correspond with applicant regarding questions or deficiencies, author a technical memo to the board regarding the petition, and then determine appropriate monitoring technique or applicability of remedy for inclusion in the technical memo. So the goal here, also kind of behind the 8 ball on it, but trying to just clarify what the Office of the Engineer will do to both the applicant and the board in order to clarify and outline how it was determined that the petition was clear or was complete. And then also in that same context, trying to bring the technical expertise or the analysis that the Office of the Engineer has done to the board for their review in a way that it can be considered side by side with the petition, just to ensure that the different backgrounds of the board and members of the public are also able to see what analysis and background has occurred in the Office of the Engineer review. There is no discussion of a technical memo or necessarily what will happen when the Office of the Engineer transmits something to the board. So this is more just providing clarity about how all of that information will be provided, and also assists in kind of more clearly documenting what records will be maintained in decision making.
All right. Any questions for Elena regarding the WPNP 11-109? Or suggestions, revisions?
Yeah, I forgot some does. It looks like
I have some minor edits.
great. That's good.
I mean, I can hand it to you, but I'll hand you my sheet, but I'll communicate them to the board. So under sub A, I would just make that the first part a full sentence, and then just capitalize this. In part B, capitalize applicant. And then in part D, no capitalization for technical memo.
Okay.
That's it.
The only thing I thought too was instead of memo, spell it out memorandum.
Okay.
Ken, you got any?
Yeah,
I knew you would.
On B, I would say applicant paren S.
Mm.
And then on C, I would say provide a technical memo.
Okay.
That's it.
Chris, did you have something?
I just really like this. I think it's great. Great way to fill in the process. Bring clarity to the process, and as a board member, it makes me really comfortable with that process.
George, your thoughts?
I thought it was pretty well presented to us with the petition that they put up there. So this all looks good to me.
All right, thank you. Okay, so this also is an action item. Any comment from the audience in the room? No comment. Any comment from our online participants?
Anyone online would like to comment, please raise your hand, I'll let you speak. Public comments.
All right, let the record show there's no public comment regarding this, so we would take a motion to approve or deny.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve 11-109 for 15-day notice and comment. As amended. Thank you.
I'll second.
All right. It's been moved and seconded to approve WPNP 11-109 for 15-day notice and comment. Can we do a roll call vote, please?
Chris Griselle,
Yes.
Chairman Roger Noble,
Yes.
Vice Chair Felix McLeod.
Yes.
Right, thank you. Okay, great. That's been a long time coming. It's nice to have that crossed off the to-do list. So, well done. Strategic plan, this is something that's been in the offing for a while. So Elena took the bull by the horns and has a draft for us. So I'll let you take off.
Yeah, so this is a follow-up on the presentation provided last meeting where I kind of broke down some of our larger goals into 5 categories. Those categories being fiscal, permitting, policy, outreach, and long-term continuity. And so under each of those headings, there's a very brief description. And what that does is it kind of outlines the pieces that drive us towards our vision and mission and what the Flathead Reservation Management Board and the Office of the Engineer are working to do in terms of serving as a trusted government institutionality and providing comprehensive water rights policy and customer service to the residents of the Flathead Reservation. And so under each of the 5 core areas, there's a SMART goal, and that's in a table. So SMART goals being specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. There was also a paragraph around constraint considerations. So while some of the goals would hopefully be more specific and measurable, instead, some of what we're doing is reporting on the number of permits we're doing per person instead of specifically stating how many we'll get through, just given that the constraints are driven by the number of folks we have in this office. And so also just trying to be cognizant of where we have constraints. And then caveating things, some of the steps that are in the tables associated with the subtask timeline will drive whether or not, for example, we have an audit of fiscal year 2025 or fiscal year 26 or fiscal year 27. This strategic plan goes from 2026, which is just these last couple of months here because fiscal year 2027 starts in October, through 2028. And so this is not a big strategic plan. It's not a 5-year strategic plan, but it's one that really gets us moving along in terms of understanding what our metrics are and really crossing into some clear deliverables that we can also report onto the board. What I hope to do and what's outlined here is reporting back to the board quarterly on what policy we're working on, and then also providing updates as to what permits and permitting numbers we were able to achieve. And then the long-term continuity pieces are really, as we move from this kind of more startup organization, what can we do to ensure that long-term we set this organization up for success? So each quarter, so 3 months, has either a circle or an X on it. X is when we hope to complete that item in the table. The circles are where we're hoping to do a substantial amount of work. And so what that looks like, and I'm happy to send this to the board. Wasn't able to print it, but we have all of our staff members, and I have it broken down by what staff member will be working on different tasks. And so this will move into individual work plans and also helps the staff determine priorities.
So what was the zero? Oh, excuse me, what was the zero again?
The zero is
Oh, you got it right there.
substantial work
I'm sorry.
happening in that quarter. No, it's kind of tucked in there, so that's part of why I highlighted it.
Yeah, thank you.
And so, you know, in a number of the tasks, you know, like creating standard operating procedures for all of our activities, you can see how they kind of build off of each other to fully completing those. Or some of the outreach, we are working to look at specific groups in different quarters, just so we can move forward that objective. And that will then allow us to have a standing item on the agenda where I cover a part of an update on our strategic plan, so that the board can see that we're hopefully continuing to make good progress on each of these priority areas and specific tasks associated with them.
Lockdown. Okay. Yes, any questions on the strategic plan, the draft strategic plan for Elena?
That was a question, Phil.
Sure.
Wow, good work.
Yeah.
So I do have a question. And this pertains really to what's the responsibility of the board and what's the responsibility of the staff. But I wonder if the only thing I don't see here is a evaluation step of what's a reporting, essentially, kind of a step, just as a formality. Here's what we accomplished, here's what we didn't, here's from the staff and the engineer's perspective how we could remedy any shortfalls going forward or take advantage of opportunities that have arisen that were anticipated. Just an opportunity for the staff to be proactive about that self-evaluation rather than us having to absorb all this. Just respond.
Yeah, and what I anticipate doing, and we'll get you in October, because that's the end of this first quarter, is what I'm planning to do, but open for feedback, is just provide what was outlined as what we would accomplish in this quarter and what was achieved and what wasn't. And if something wasn't accomplished, then discussion about what the barriers were and when we anticipate getting that done, or an explanation of what happened. And it can be more formal than that, but that's certainly why I wanted to have things into quarters. It gives enough time for us internally to be like, this is what we're accomplishing this quarter. This is what, you know, here we are in July. So we have July, August, September to complete all the Q4 tasks. And then at the beginning of each quarter, we'll do a look back on the last quarter and a look forward to the next quarter. Yeah, I don't have a template for it, but we can presume that I can get a template for you all next month, or I can bring one in October.
Yeah, I guess it's just a question of do we want to, like, you let that process evolve, as you're sort of suggesting, do we want to kind of formalize it up front?
Yeah.
Maybe it is better just to see how it goes and see how it rolls.
Yeah, this is kind of just a living document anyway, so it's subject to modification as time progresses, so you could always add in that review process too. And do you have a preference, or?
I have an ideological preference in terms of what a strategic plan should encompass, and in my view, that function of self-evaluation should be a component of a strategic plan. But on the other hand, this is the first run at it, like you say, we can evolve it over time. Makes more sense.
I'm open to if you have an example or anything too, to bringing that in.
I don't really have any great examples. It's more just a functional component, strategic plan process. And that's a question really of how much we put on the board to be just to respond to the numbers versus how much does the staff take a role in sort of shaping where we've been, what the barriers are. And I kind of figured that, kind of given that, having been on the staff of an NGO for quite a long time, I kind of favor giving the staff that perspective. I've seen where boards to fail when that didn't happen. That's kind of.
Do you have an example that you could provide, Elena?
I don't really know. I don't have any to put through. I think you're right that that's it, but maybe it's beyond combining the numbers. It's a matter of just having a meeting internally, and identifying what the issues are as they're perceived commonly across the staff, and then bringing that to us.
Okay.
It's more of a process than a checklist.
Okay.
George, you got any thoughts?
I'm just thinking of what Chris was saying, so that would be kind of like a final review of all this at the end of it.
Yeah, it would basically be one more section added to the end of this, which is, the engineer's perspective on the staff's perspective.
Mhm.
What's going right, what's not going right, what could we do differently.
And it could be useful to the staff then, because they'd have input into it.
Yeah, I mean, that depends on how the engineer wants to manage that process internally. And that can depend a lot on what your staff wants to do.
And I really like this. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's good work.
Yeah, no, it's long time coming, so well done. Well, would you like to, I guess we have a couple options then. We could either approve it as provided, or we could table it until next meeting and ask for that additional section and then take an action then. Do you have a preference?
I'd be willing to approve it as written, and with the understanding that section. Keep the ball rolling.
No, that's a great suggestion though. So, yeah. All right. Public comment. I doubt that there's any comment from the audience.
If anyone online has a comment, raise your hand. Public comment.
All right. So the record shows there's no public comment. We would take a motion to approve the strategic plan as provided with suggestions for the future.
To accept the draft Flathead Reservation Watershed Management Board Office of the Engineer Strategic Plan as a working document.
I'll second it.
Okay, great, thanks. So it's been moved and seconded to approve the draft Flathead Reservation Water Management Board Office of the Engineer Strategic Plan. Roll call, please.
Kenneth Pitt,
Yes.
Vice Chair George McLeod,
Yes.
Chairman Roger Noble,
Yes.
Chris Frizzell.
Yes.
Great. We look forward to getting your spreadsheet to see how the evaluation process unfolds.
Yeah.
Great. All right, well, that kind of concludes our meeting agenda. We not table, but we delayed the board and committee compensation things. Ruth did not make it, so do we want to move ahead or just table this till the next week? Pardon me?
Yeah, move ahead.
Okay. So the first one is the board compensation. It's the salmon colored one. It was basically one meeting for all the board members. I would take, all right, any discussion on the board compensation? Couldn't be any cleaner. So public comment. No public comment in the audience.
Anyone online has a comment, raise your hand, I'll allow you to speak. No public comments.
All right. Thank you. I take a motion to approve board compensation.
Chairman, I move we approve board compensation June 26th.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the board compensation as stated. Roll call vote, please.
Kenneth Pitt,
Yeah, yes.
Vice Chair George McLeod,
Yes.
Chairman Roger Noble,
Yes.
Chris Frizzell.
Yes.
All right, done deal. The next one is the board committee compensation. There's only two on that. Those were related to the permit and change meeting that was held in July of June 16th. Any discussion, questions on the committee compensation? Hearing seen no questions, any public comment?
Anyone online has a comment, raise your hand, I'll allow you to speak. Public comments online.
Thank you. There's no public comment. I would take a motion to approve or disapprove.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion to approve the board committee compensation for June 2026.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the board committee compensation. Roll call, please.
Kenneth Pitt,
Yes.
Vice Chair George McLeod,
Yes.
Chairman Roger Noble,
Yes.
Chris Frizzell.
Yes.
All right, and that
We got that.
takes care of our meeting for today's agenda. We need to set the next board meeting. So in about a month, if we want to meet again on a Tuesday, that looks like it would be either August 18 or 25th down the road.
I'm open both days.
Which
I'm open both days.
I am too.
25th would be better.
I'm open both days.
All right, well, 25th, that works for Chris. Let's set it for August 25th. So. When does school restart, Chris?
After Labor Day.
Oh, you got a little break then. Yeah. Good. Okay, well, I guess that is our meeting. Take a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Adjourn, guys.